Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have an amazing lady, an amazing human being that has been part of our community. I love how she shows up in the world, Miss Janet Krebs. Did I say that correct, Janet?
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. So I wanted you guys to tune in and kind of pay attention to what Janet has to say. Important topic. Janet, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got involved doing what you do?
It's funny because I just turned 60. It's so much fun because have you ever gotten to that point where you're like, oh my gosh, that's why I did this. That's why I did this. That's why I did this. And that's really the beauty of middle age. Everything I have ever done in my life, personally and professionally, has led to this. I absolutely believe that with the strongest of convictions in my soul. Leadership is parenting. Parenting is leadership. And parenting now is like a verb. Like, when did it become a verb? We were just parents, right? But now it's like an entire industry. And it has been shrouded, unfortunately, with judgment and conditions that we bring to it. And let's face it, the world is so different than when you and I were coming up that the rules have changed a lot. And the why, I'm going to circle back to that. So there's different challenges. We get 30 pages of instructions when we buy a new coffee maker, but we literally come home from the hospital with a human being with no instructions at all. And when we ask for help, we are shamed and judged. Why? If we want to lose weight, we ask and we research and we hire people to help us. So there is absolutely, whether it's me or all the other brilliant minds in this lane, there is help. My niche is about changing the mindset of we're leaders. We're not parents, we're leaders. We're the CEOs of our family. And when we present like that and show up like that, I'm telling you, it's easy and fun. Yeah. And we get the results that we're looking for. I hope I answered your question.
I love that whole leadership aspect of it. And leadership is a great way for you to personally develop, right? Because you discover your strength, your weaknesses, and things that you're passionate about. And parenting is no exception. It's like the greatest personal development program ever. But it reminded me when you mentioned that when you have a child, you come home with a baby and no instructions. I remember when my child was born, they showed us how to bathe the child. And they're like, now you're ready to go. I'm like, you sure you don't want us to stay for a couple more days?
A couple more years.
Yeah. So very true.
Yeah. And I actually just finished writing a book, not the how-to, like that kind of tactical stuff, but kind of some of these other things. There's just not a lot out there. And it's not that my way, I think I wrote the book more just to give permission to families to get into the habit of looking to professionals for help rather than suffering in silence or God forbid, and I'm going to go out and say it, unpopular, going on social media and then getting 9,276 responses that are simply opinions and not from qualified experts. We can do better. We can do better.
You actually brought up something really important because nowadays, the new parents are the generation that grew up with internet, basically, and they have social media and they look at social media as a way of connecting. So it's different than our parenting, where it was human to human and persons and not opinions, like you said, from people that you've never met before.
Yeah, so, well, remember, like the village was people that lived close to you or your neighbors or your community or your family that you trusted. And I'm not saying that the conditioning of that, what we learned is 100% solid. However, we had that. Today, our village is the internet. And I'm not convinced that it serves us well, or let's say effectively. It's
Right.
not a bad place to start, but I've done videos about it. It's like, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary for people who think that that's the only place that they're getting information. That's
Right.
all. Social media, that is, not research,
Right.
not solid research, but social media.
Right. Well said. So, what are some of the challenges that you see people come to you or are struggling with now when it comes to either new parenting or they've been parenting and running into issues?
I think number one right now for me, I mean, I've got some, I could answer that so many, there is no number one. There just isn't a number one. The two that are top of mind right now is obviously electronic addiction
Yes.
and the mental health crises. Now, that is a huge net, right? However, the research that I've done, which is how I got into my lane of leadership, is parenting. The mental health crises, most of the things that parents are seeing and complaining about and concerned about can be taken care of at home when their children feel seen and heard. This is the crux of the mental health crises. And there's so many ways to my 3 C's: be connected, create a vision, and allow for effective communication. Those 3 things right there would be a great place to start with resolving. I can't say eradicate, but resolving, at least start chipping away at this mental health crisis that sounds so scary, but we can solve it at home.
Janet, you just actually gave a huge point, basically, and I just want to reemphasize this because, like you said, we hear about mental health and we're like, okay, counselors, medications, institutions, support groups, all of this stuff. But you just said it's under our control. It's easier than you realize, and it is based on 3 things. What are those 3 things again? Let's focus on that.
Create a vision, which is a leadership quality, right? They have vision behind the ivory tower, but we're talking about in home. Create the vision for your family. Create opportunities for effective communication. And I'm talking about, let's throw away the, how was your day? Fine. I mean, that's so empty. We can do so much better. And then connection. And you know what the great thing about that is, Dr. L? You don't need a PhD and you don't need a fat wallet. You need some intention and some commitment. And it's so much fun. Like, let's bring the joy back to all of this. And I believe when we do some of these really simple things, we will really resolve this right in the comforts of our own home.
I remember when my kids were in Laura Elementary and they were coming home, and I was like, describe your day for me. And they were like, good. I'm like, good is not a description.
Right. Right. My kids weren't even allowed to use the word fine.
Right.
It was like, you know what? That is for average. Like, you can do better. We have a better command of the vocabulary. How about you try again?
Right. Beautiful.
You know?
All right. So you mentioned, because it's woven in this, leadership. So what can parents do themselves to role model this behavior?
Well, first, I think it starts with mindset. Like, give yourself, like, how many times have you heard this? Because you've been in this lane a really long time. I come from education, right? And as a mom, but after 20, 30 years of doing some other things with and around kids. How many times have you heard when you ask somebody, who are you? What do you, and they're like, oh, I'm just a mom. That boy, does that really put you in that judgment and conditional mode, right? So let's eradicate that.
Right.
Like, if you are a parent because we have to relax how we think about families and parents today. If you are responsible for somebody younger, whether you are a mentor, whatever it is, you're not just at anything. You are the leader. You're the role model. You're the one that they're looking up to. You're setting the example. So how about we just step into that and say, as the CEO of this family,
Right.
I give myself permission to practice boundaries, say no, put limits on things, like, and those sounded like they were negative, but they're not. But like, we just need to give ourselves permission. When you hear this all the time, when you walk, how many times have you heard, I walk into my child's room and they're on their phone and I can't get them off? See, you're laughing.
No.
I smile too. And then I catch myself because it's like, I don't want to judge, but it's like, how about you just ask for the phone and take it? But parents, for whatever reason, have lost the voice and the permission that they give themselves to actually be, and dare I say, the authority, the one to look up to. That's not a bad thing. I truly believe our kids are begging for us to lead because the world is so scary. And they are, when they don't have boundaries and they're floundering, they're terrified. Is it any wonder that we have a mental health crisis? We've got a bunch of terrified kids.
So you actually pointed a couple of really important points. Number one is that the information, and tons of it, unfiltered, is available to anyone. So at what point do you decipher and decide which information is correct or important and which one is not, or which ones to give priority to or not? So that's number one. And when you talk about mental health, one of the issues with mental health is the fact that our higher brain centers are responsible for focus and prioritization. So if you have difficulty deciphering the information and prioritizing it, then what's happening up here? And then the parents need to step into that role to show them what they should pay attention to, which ones should be priority. And I'm not saying this has to be priority or something else has to be priority. The parents as the leaders need to step forward. And people are gravitated towards people who lead because it makes it easier for them to not just follow, but also find their way and be more effective in their lives.
Yeah. Do you ever notice that the kids who have the mean moms and dads are where the kids want to hang out? Because they feel safe.
Yeah, the boundaries. So we look at
right, exactly.
Because boundaries, for grown-ups, boundaries represent a cage. But for children, boundaries are like guardrails that prevent you from falling over the cliff. So it's a good thing.
Exactly right. It's exactly right. But it's just a mindset shift. So I call it parent shift.
I like
right.
that.
It's just, I'm on a mission. This is my mission, to just give people permission for this parent shift, which is the first level of download mentally, just to say, you know what? I can do this. Like this is going to be great. I'm going to shift myself into a leadership role and do this.
I love it. Janet, I love everything that you're saying. And of course, you're preaching to choir here. But given that there's a lot of insight, there's a lot of wisdom, how can people find out, learn more about you, connect with you, and follow you?
Well, I'm on all the socials, and I'm creating some new things so that parents can actually have a place to just go and take that they know and that they can trust. So Janet Krebs, just remember the name, janetkrebs.com is an easy place. And because that's just my name, obviously. However, parentshifts.com will also be a place where we're building the library to pull some things that they can just take, that they can trust. Information, videos, things like that, articles.
Guys, Janet has provided a lot of information for me. She's really heart-centered and gives out as much as is humanly possible. So I'm going to actually list and put all of the links, all the stuff that allows you to connect and benefit from Janet's expertise in the description. So be sure when you get a chance to go ahead and go to the description box, click on those links, open them up, review them. Don't make it one more thing on your plate that you're going to get to later on. Just go to it, get it done. And also role model the behavior for the children, that they don't have to have all the answers. We don't always have the answers, but the world is filled with people who actually have our best interest, humanity's best interest at heart. It's okay to reach out for help, and just show what that looks like. Kids need to understand that when we don't have the answers, we need to know where to find them. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you click subscribe on the channel so you get notified of all the experts and the gifts and the expertise that they bring to the channel. Janet, thank you so much for being here. I love these kind of conversations, and we could have these coffee talks every morning. Any final words for our audience members before we finish today?
I thought of this not that long ago, a couple months ago, and now I include it, and it's going to be like it's my new mantra. We are all raising tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? It's not your problem, my neighbor's problem. The kids of tomorrow, like Whitney Houston said it, right? I believe the children are our future, but we are all raising tomorrow. So my mantra would be, let's raise tomorrow together.
Today. Awesome. I love it. Beautifully said. Thank
Thank
you so much.
Thank
And
you.
until next time. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.